If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA, and today our plans are thrown in the garbage. Literally 2 minutes before we got on the microphone, Diana Taurasi has announced her retirement from the WNBA, invalidating our bingo board further, and we are going to get into the league-wide ramifications and talk a little bit about DT's career, as well as talk about the significant trade that happened with the number 3 overall pick. But before we get into all of that, Kristen, how's it going on this Tuesday evening?
Oh my gosh, it's good. We love news.
We do love news.
So
news is great.
I am loving it. I just, every day that passes and other news comes out, I get more sad for our bingo board. Go back and listen to our bingo board episode. One of those items was that Diana Taurasi plays another season in Phoenix.
Yes. And we were wrong.
Yes, clearly.
That's okay. That happens. It wasn't going to be a full board. Before we talk about, all of this Diana Taurasi goodness, if you are just now finding out about the pod because of this emergency, welcome. You can contact us, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. We're there. We like to talk about the W and Unrivaled and all the good things going around in the women's basketball world, women's college basketball. There's a lot of that. We're getting ready for the tournament. It's going to be an exciting time. We're going to be talking a lot on those platforms. So look forward to that. And if you would be so kind as to whatever platform you're listening to this right now, go and leave us a 5-star rating and review just to tell us how much you love the show, how much you love women's basketball, and help us grow the voice and reach more people so that we can all share in the wonder that is this organization and these ladies who deserve all the credit in the world. So, like I said, we had a plan today. I'll tease it here. We're going to do a short series before the season starts about some of the defunct teams in the WNBA past. We were going to talk about the Portland Fire and the Cleveland Rockers, both of which are very relevant to the WNBA now. We haven't even talked.
No, we haven't even talked about Cleveland.
No, Cleveland apparently 2028 rejoining the WNBA as the Cleveland Rockers.
Hasn't been 100% confirmed yet. I haven't heard from Kathy E.
Yeah.
But it's pretty assumed at this point. Many outlets are reporting Cleveland will be the next expansion team.
Right.
And technically the last of the expansions that the W has said they're doing.
Right.
Currently.
However, in this conversation centered around Cleveland, there is apparently discussion, thank goodness, to expand the league to 18 instead of 16. Mm-hmm. So that would leave 2 spots for Houston and Philadelphia, we hope, outside of following the Cleveland introduction in 2028. We'll talk more about that when we do discuss the history of the Cleveland Rockers. I just want to let everybody know that that's something to look forward to. We're going to do that, and we're going to talk about the Comets, and we're going to talk about the Soul and all those other teams. But right now, focused on some moves around the league. Most importantly, Diana Taurasi retiring after 20 seasons in the WNBA. A significant career, about as significant as anybody, any athlete. Like, the amount of time she spent from 2004 to 2024 And even though we were here for a short period of time, she very much influenced my opinion about the WNBA in a good way. And I don't know all of her history, but we want to do our best to like give her flowers as she, walks into retirement. Let's talk about the moment, because this afternoon, maybe like an hour ago, she announces that she's going to be on The View tomorrow. And I get a Reddit notification and I'm like, okay, this might be it. But we have no official announcement. Even last week, there was another notification I got that said she's still mulling over her decision. And I'm like, well, if she's still mulling over her decision, then she's going to be playing. Like, we would have known.
I know, right?
I still think it's crazy that it wasn't like...
Obviously,
for sure.
I'm not a professional athlete. I don't really know how any of this works.
Right.
And like the feeling you get after a season is done, especially 20 incredible seasons.
Plus international stuff and Olympic stuff and all that.
Of course. But I just feel like if it were me, I would want, before a season starts, I would want to say, this is going to be my last season. Especially if I'm Diana Taurasi, then every single place you go, it's like a little ceremony for you. Everyone's clapping for you. Like, everyone knows it's your last. Ooh. So it just, like, means more that, oh, I know this is my last time.
Right.
I'm just, like, emotional like that.
Right.
So I just feel like that's what I would want to do.
Right.
And I just can't understand, like, waiting this long. Like, I don't know if I want to play and then deciding you don't want to. I just can't understand that mindset. But obviously, was the oldest player in the league. She's 42.
By, like, what, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, by a
significant
lot.
Amount.
She is the most experienced, has the most storied career of anyone currently, of anyone thus far.
Right.
And I personally am very glad that we were able to watch her for a season.
That's true. Could you imagine if we like just missed her? I mean, we like just missed Sue,
right? And
we missed Candace Parker.
Exactly.
But like, I am glad that I got to watch Diana Taurasi hoop a little bit, even though her role was much more limited than it was historically. And we'll get into some of her stats too. But like, she was taking more of a back seat, even though she was starting a lot of games. But it was just interesting to see this player that was like, when she came out from college in 2003, when she left UConn, I'm pretty certain, and correct me if I'm wrong, send us an email if I'm wrong, but like her influence around basketball was about as significant as like Paige's is right now as she's coming out of UConn. Caitlin too, like revolutionary style of play. A really good guard who could shoot the ball. In, the early 2000s when the leagues, the NBA and the WNBA were very different. Now, obviously, in 2025, there are a lot more players that play like Diana Taurasi played over her career. But, like, not too many athletes, if any, play for 20 years. Like LeBron just hit 20 years. This is a similar level of career. She has 3 championships. She won 3 championships. Hasn't won in a while, but like still, Phoenix was a competitive franchise for most of her career. 11-time All-Star. Very significant. Very, very significant. Double-digit All-Stars doesn't happen that much in any sport. Just like it's hard to put into words how significant this moment probably is for the league.
Going back to 2004, Diana Taurasi was drafted number 1 overall, and she was Rookie of the Year. And she was on the all WNBA first team her rookie year, 2004.
Nice.
Was Caitlin?
Caitlin was
this year?
First team.
Okay. She was MVP in 2009. She led the league in assists in 2014. She's been finals MVP twice, 2009 and 2014. So I guess those were, some of her best years. When Phoenix won.
That first, like I said, that first decade.
Yeah. So she's been the scoring champion 5 times, 2006, 2008, 9, 10, and 11.
4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Pretty significant. I mean, I guess Asia Wilson is kind of doing the same, on a same trajectory. Mm-hmm. But if you listen to our bingo episode, we think somebody might top Asia this year. We'll see.
Oh, we're wrong. And I guess she's just like widely considered the GOAT.
I wouldn't say widely. I don't feel like she's considered widely. I know she's like top 5. Some people would argue that it's Candace Parker. And then you have your, other folks that would argue that it's Cynthia Cooper or Cheryl Swoops or Maya Moore.
You can't really say that it's Maya Moore.
I mean, if you extrapolate Maya Moore's career,
Well,
who knows what else she could have given.
No, that's not fair to do.
But from a statistical standpoint, she's got so much numbers that it will take a long time for somebody to, overcome many of those career accolades that she was able to accrue in her time in the W.
Exactly.
Just looking at some of her stats, a career 18.8 points per game. She was a 36% three-point shooter, 4.2 assists, 3.9 rebounds. Not really as flashy as I might have thought. 18.8 points per game over her career is significant. That's really good scoring, especially when a lot of her, best scoring years were in that first decade where she topped out at like 25 points per game is really solid numbers. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why she's, the leading scorer in WNBA history. You actually noticed an interesting stat.
Yeah, so looking at her all-time stats, she has 10,646 total points, the most of anyone.
10,000 is a nice number too.
Yep, and that's almost 3,000 more than the second, which is Tina Charles.
Tina.
It's like 2,950.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see what Tina Charles can do.
Tina, what plan do you have?
If Tina Charles plays until she's 42, she could potentially pass DT, but we'll see about that. Hey.
Nobody's playing in Connecticut.
She's going to be getting every single basket on this Connecticut team. Uh-huh. So, okay, Tina, I see you.
Stat pad it.
But while her points are the highest of anyone, I did look at her minutes because, she's been in the league the longest. I figure she has the most minutes. Mm-hmm. She's second most in minutes behind Sue Bird. She has about 1,000 less minutes than Sue Bird, but 4,000 more points than Sue Bird. That's pretty crazy.
That is very crazy. Mm-hmm. It's very crazy. Man, a lot of mileage. A lot of mileage on these players.
Yeah, and like crazy 400 more three-pointers made than the next person, which is Sue Bird.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would expect somebody to eventually pass that, maybe a Caitlin, maybe a Sabrina. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more high-volume three-point shooters in the league. But she attempted 7 three-pointers per game over her career. That's pretty good numbers for 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think, it's been 20 years. She's 42. Things have been leading up to this. Brittany Griner leaving Phoenix to go to Atlanta was, I'm sure, a big deal for her, for Diana, because they've played together.
Right. I mean, that was probably as telling as anything.
Right. So we saw some hints. Mm-hmm. We saw them take on Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabally, 2 huge pieces that have big contracts. Mm-hmm. That were like, okay, adding also Diana Taurasi's contract is a big deal. So, potentially they have an inkling that they won't be needing that contract. But then also like having the Olympics last year, and she was able to play in the Olympics again for her 6th year. Mm-hmm. That was her 6th Olympic gold medal, which is wild.
Crazy. Even if she didn't play that much.
No, right. This past Olympics,
Right.
she barely played.
Right. She just needed that last run.
Yeah. But, right, getting that last run last year and now this year, I mean, there's no Olympics for 3 more years, so it makes sense that last year she would be able to do the Olympics. So I do think, we're not completely surprised by this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like it deserves saying that, like, not only is her career very storied, but also she got into some antics on the court that, we might not see similar levels of. Obviously, there are chaotic players in and around the W, many that we've grown very fond of in our first year following. But, like, we're talking about the retirement in our group chat. And obviously, friend of the pod, Laura, is a significant fan of Diana Taurasi, immediately sent us an audio message about how distraught she was.
You can play it.
I could play it. I don't think I need her permission.
Oh, no.
So that was her initial reaction. But, like, she sent us a picture from, I'm pretty sure it was from last year, of Mercury players fighting with Aces players, and all around Diana Taurasi, she's just right in the center, smiling, basically looking at the camera, very much like The Office or like any cutaway sitcom gag where she's looking right down the middle. Doesn't care about any of this, but, like, she's always fighting the refs. She, obviously Phoenix has, a lot of technical fouls in their history. And I'm sure if we look at technical foul numbers, she's probably relatively high, if not at the top of that list, considering the amount of time that she was in the league.
Right.
But some of those chaotic antics were very fun and very enjoyable to watch. Some of them garnered her some haters. I know that she has her haters, many haters. We have not followed long enough, I feel like, to be haters of Diana Taurasi. Mm-hmm. We're mostly in the enjoyer camp.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, like, yeah, it's, not only just, like, the way she played and the things that she did in the league, but, like, just the way she did it on the court was a very unique vibe to me.
Mm-hmm. No, she's our technical foul queen. And, like, even being the oldest person in the league, she brought one of the most amounts of energy to the league.
Yeah.
To every game.
Yeah.
Like, she was so into it and so intense about every play. She did an interview with Time talking about her decision to retire. And one of her quotes was, she said, "Mentally and physically, I'm just full. That's probably the best way I can describe it. I'm full and happy." And that's touching. That's nice.
It's very touching.
And I think, going back to that like meme, basically it is a meme now of everyone fighting around her. Like, even like she put so much energy and so much effort and time into her career of basketball. And now she is saying, I feel fulfilled. I feel happy. And not that she doesn't want to fight anymore. I think she would still have a great season if she chose to come back.
Yeah. In a different role, though, because we do, it's important to, you've already mentioned the big significant moves that Phoenix made. They are signaling that their new core is Kalia Copper, Satu Sabli, Alyssa Thomas. Just looking at their contracts right now, those are their 3 $200+ million or 200+ thousand, salaried players. And then we look at the depth, and it's Kalani Brown as a starting center, Sammy Whitcomb in a like 6th player of the year situation. Kitya Laxa, who I don't know. And then a lot of players that that I'm not very familiar with outside of Natasha Mack, Celeste Taylor, Sev Uzin, Charisma Osborne, who's still unsigned. I don't know Lexi Held. I don't know Muryanata Musa, and I don't know Catherine Westbeld. But they have a lot of training camp contracts and a lot of question marks still to be addressed. They've got about just shy of $500,000 in cap space that they'll be able to use toward either those training camp contracts or another signing or two. it's kind of a shame that they couldn't have Natasha Cloud on the team because they had to trade her away. But I don't know. That's just why I kind of felt like Diana Taurasi could have still decided to return and fill a role here, even if she didn't end up being like the starting point guard that she's been for her whole career. Like, I think that the offense is going to operate through AT because we know how gifted of a passer she is. She's not obviously a true point guard. She can play point forward. They're going to need to figure out a lot of things. Like, they're not all ready to go for a championship. I think they need to hope that they hit on a lot of these relief players, a lot of these extra players, even though those three are as good as they are. But
I mean, maybe
different world.
Maybe she didn't want to be a backup.
And I'm sure she didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sure she didn't. You know, that hasn't been her style. Like,
No.
She was still as old as she was, and she was not coming off the bench. She was starting.
I definitely respect, like, wanting to go out on a high note. Wanting to go out on this Olympic win.
Right.
When you still had a great year. When she could have come back and been a backup and been fine. But I guess, in her mind, what's the point of that? She doesn't need to do that.
Right. I've always been a strong proponent of, like, go out when it's a happy moment and not when it's a sad moment. But, yeah, honestly, I don't really have much else to say about DT's career. Obviously, we're going to have to see what the W's like without her. I'm sure we're going to see her in cameos, at games, courtside. She'll probably do some announcing stuff. I don't know if she's got a plan for her, post-career where she's going to be doing maybe analysis. Maybe she's going to go the way like Candace Parker has and join a table and talk about the league. We don't know any of this. Maybe she'll talk about that on The View tomorrow when she's on tomorrow afternoon for those interested in checking that out. But just want to say congratulations to an incredible career, Diana Taurasi. Thank you for playing one more year so that we could see. We are, at Attack the Baseline, are very appreciative of that. Do you have any other last thoughts about Diana Taurasi's career?
I will definitely say thank you to Diana Taurasi. I have loved watching her this year and being able to appreciate the best scorer of all time. I'm very glad we got to see her and didn't have to go back, whereas we're going to have to go back to see players like Candace Parker and Maya Moore and all of the players we've been looking at when we were looking at some of these defunct teams in the early 2000s. So I'm really glad that we were able to do that, to see her and to experience her passion, her grit, just like how much like attitude she brings to the sport, how much she's influenced other players. Like, I feel like Caitlin before has said, I look up to these older players like Diana Taurasi and, how much influence she's had on just regular culture.
Her fits, her long shorts.
I know. I was going to say, like, some of those early pictures you see, like, it was kind of rough, her look. But she quickly figured out her slick back bun.
Yes.
She stuck to that for a very long time, and I appreciate that. Potentially that's influenced players like Marina Mabry. Go watch Marina Mabry's her bun tutorial on TikTok, where she does her slick back bun.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just glad, and I'm just hopeful that this next generation of Mercury players can bring this same attitude, the same passion to the court.
Yeah.
The same fighting mentality of don't cross me, essentially.
Right. Live up to the X factor.
Yes.
Be the X factor. Fill the shoes that BG and DT are leaving behind.
They have to. Who's going to? Satu?
I don't know.
AT?
Yes, possible. She's got it. She got the grit.
Yeah, but she's not like in your face. Like afterwards.
True.
She's
the engine though.
Someone needs to rip a door off of a hinge.
Ka can do that.
Yeah.
Sammy Whitcomb, she could do that.
So yeah, that's it. I'm appreciative. I think, it'll be interesting to see who comes next. The next generation of Yukon Guard is up next. So we'll see.
Let's see what it looks like.
O'Reilly! You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Listeners, are you looking for a shortcut to better auto insurance for you? Something that takes all the research off your plate, something that's easy, something that matches you at lower rates, something genius. That's where NerdWallet comes in. These nerds have already done the work for you. Just answer a few questions and ta-da, you'll be matched with top insurance providers in your area. Find the right rate for you today at nerdwallet.com. After all, using NerdWallet is more than just smart, it's genius. Not all applicants will qualify for the lowest monthly payments. NerdWallet Insurance Services, Inc. CA resident license number OK92033.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton bedding from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and breathable sheets. You'll experience pure comfort on night one and feel your bedding get softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first order at bollandbranch.com with code CUMULUS. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
All right. Well, that does it for our discussion of the big retirement announcement. But I did say at the beginning of the show, we do want to give a couple minutes to this major trade that happened the other night between the Chicago Sky and the Washington Mystics. The Washington Mystics trading away Ariel Atkins to Chicago in return for the number 3 overall pick, a 2027 first-round pick swap, and an additional second-round pick in the future. Crazy trade. Like, I know we didn't... It was 8:30, 8:45. We were watching Unrivaled. We didn't have time to get to the microphone. We couldn't do an emergency pod. Kristen had to collect her thoughts on it. Mm-hmm. But what was it like in the moment? How did it feel for you? What was your initial first thought?
Okay. Honestly, I have not a recollection of Ariel Atkins playing in this league.
Uh-huh.
Even
though she was on the laces? Is on the laces? Is on the
rose? I'm
rose?
talking about during the season when we were watching the Mystics.
Sure.
I just really always in my mind think that she was injured the whole season and didn't play. So I was like, what? Let me go look at her stats. She played every single game last year. Uh-huh. So I don't know what this black hole void is in my brain of Ariel Atkins, but I couldn't in the moment picture who she was or what she did last year.
Yeah, that would be the Ariel Powers effect.
I know, it's just... I just am getting mixed up here. And we only watched the Mystics. We really didn't watch that many Mystics games last year. So that was a little rough. But I do think we've still been on the edge of our seats because it feels like there's some more shoes to drop here. Mm-hmm. Not wanting to get ahead of ourselves, but it just feels like kind of a weird trade. I don't know if Ariel Atkins is worth 3 picks, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick.
Right. I mean, a pick swap is kind of like an extra first-round pick, but in the 2027 draft, that's the Juju Watkins draft. You do not want to give up your position in the first round when Juju Watkins could be as revolutionary of a player as Caitlin Clark or Paige Beckers. Like, what's that decision making in Chicago?
It's just slot this in to another reason why Chicago is we don't understand them at all, and potentially like super incompetent leadership.
Correct. We've talked about this.
I do think like they need more pieces, so it's great that they have gotten more. I mean, Ariel Atkins is good.
Yes.
She's solid. She's good. She seems very reliable. So that's a great thing for them to have brought onto their team, especially now that Angel has been doing so well in Unrivaled. She needs good guards around her. So great. I'm sure she'll fit well on the team. I think she'll make, so in that sense, just alone, I think it's great that Chicago did this.
Right.
But, I mean, all props to the Mystics for getting so much back for her.
Yeah. Getting so much back for her.
Yeah, so much young potential back for her.
Yeah, so from what the moment for me, like, at least my original thought about Ariel Atkins, like you said, good player. She had like one game last year that I remembered that I was like, okay, I see the vision. I think she might have dropped like 35. She might have had 8 threes, something in that vicinity. She was bombing it away. Like, she's on average a 5 3 per game player. So she's a decent volume 3-point shooter. She shoots 36%. A career 13.4 points. She collects 3 total rebounds, 2.4 assists per game. You know, the numbers don't jump off the stat sheet. She's a good veteran player at her prime. She's 28. She's got a lot of her career ahead of her. Obviously, we talked about how Chicago needs a guard. Courtney Vandersloot's going to be their new point guard for this year. Ariel Atkins, I think of her more as a shooting guard. She could maybe turn into a point guard in this role. I don't know. They really wanted to do right by Camilla and Angel and give, them an opportunity to have a team that had a little extra firepower because, shooting wise, that's not their, or at least shooting from deep, that's not their strong suits. They're both post players. We know this. When you see the return, because at first I thought it was just the 3 pick. And when I thought it was just the 3 pick, that in the moment I thought was an overpay. And then I find out that they gave up the pick swap and the second, and my mind was like going places. And we let the dust settle, and Washington right now in the upcoming draft has the 3rd overall pick, the 4th overall pick, and the 6th overall pick. And this has already been discussed, but it took me about 5 minutes to get to the point where I was like, 3 first-round picks in the top 6, why not just trade them all for number 1? Paige plays for UConn. She's already in the Northeast corridor. Why not just head on over to Washington? Paige takes Washington. She could get to play with Aaliyah Edwards. Washington, if they were able to like hold on to 6, maybe they only need 3 and 4. I would be pretty shocked if that was the return. AZ Fudd hanging out. Thought about how fun that would be if you did Paige and AZ and Aaliyah. Washington, a team full of, and we talked about this last year, a team full of like really good role players, not any real stars, but really good role players. They could be patent made to like be a challenging team already if that was what they did. And, we don't know for sure if that's what they're getting into, but they certainly have something that Dallas, a team that has Arike Ogunbowale and Dejanay Carrington, I think they would have have to look in the mirror and be like, 3 young players, cost control players, we wouldn't have to pay a lot of money for these players over the next couple of years. The CBA is going up. Maybe then we just keep our contracts low, just have a bunch of young talent, and let Washington do the Paige thing, and let Paige go to Washington.
Well, Paige will be on a small contract too. What
Correct.
do you mean?
But it could be like, let's say Dallas doesn't want to go all the way in and pay, 3 major contracts.
Well, it doesn't seem like they do because they are losing all these players.
Right. Right. They didn't want to pay Satu because she was going to be worth what, 200 north of 200,000.
Well, Satu wanted to leave.
Correct. But they could get, if this trade materialized, they could theoretically get 3 young players that could be very good. We've talked about this draft being pretty good through 6, 7, 8 players, even, all the way through the first round. I don't know. I think something interesting could be brewing in Dallas, which would also invalidate her bingo board. But that was the biggest thing. And we are not the only people to talk about that. It was a pretty big conversation that night. A lot of people were saying, what could Washington be doing? I think it's fair to say they should consider throwing it all. Go for it. I'm
sure Washington would want to do that.
Right.
Depends on Dallas, what Dallas wants to do.
Right. I just think I'm very glad Angel has been amazing in her praise of Chicago to go get her a player. She's been very excited. She said in Unrivaled, I'm so excited to be back in Chicago.
About Ariel Atkins?
Yeah, she was like, I came into Unrivaled with no teammates, and I'm leaving with 2, Sloot and Ariel Atkins. She's excited to play this upcoming year. Camila Cardoso is across the world, being a dominant player. I'm sure Angel's pretty gassed for this upcoming year. I do not think Chicago is going to be a playoff team still. I don't think this makes them a playoff team. I think they should have just stuck with the 3 pick and their pick swap in the future. And they should have just developed young talent and let Courtney Vandersloot be an aged veteran who can be the point guard that Angel has learned a lot from having a player like Chelsea Gray in Unrivaled. But all this to say, I think this is a pretty shocking trade. I know. Just to summarize.
Okay, great. Good summary. I also want to talk about Isabel Harrison going to the Liberty.
Oh, okay. Yep.
No, this is actually
didn't return to Chicago. Relevant.
True. Isabel Harrison was on Chicago. This is shocking to me because I do consider Isabel Harrison to be a very reliable, good player. She last year averaged 6.5 points, 4 rebounds. And I looked, and I think it's really because they needed to fill the void, the Liberty needed to fill the void of losing Kayla Thornton. And honestly, just looking at the numbers, it seems like Isabel Harrison will be a slight upgrade to Kayla Thornton.
Can she shoot?
She has more, at least last year and overall, she averages more points, more rebounds than Kayla Thornton and plays less minutes. So has played less minutes in the past. So if the Liberty need her to play more minutes, we'll see how she fits in the starting lineup. I don't know if that will happen just because of Leonie Phoebish becoming so much better at the end of last year.
Right.
But if she can be a really reliable 6th or 7th piece to the Liberty, I think that's great. And I think they're not missing a beat of missing Kayla Thornton, which is someone who we thought would be impactful that left.
Right. Yeah. If New York wants to try to repeat, they got to reload and they got to make the most of it. There's obviously there was news that they tried to trade for Natasha Cloud. They still might try to trade for Natasha Cloud again. I think they need one more piece because of what they lost. But Isabel Harrison, like you said, a reliable role player for the team. Yeah, you got to make it work. It'd be cool to go back to back, just like the Aces, but it takes a lot.
Not gonna happen.
I don't think it's gonna happen. Personally,
you heard it here first. Not happening.
No, sorry, New York.
Okay, that's all we got.
Yeah, that's all we got. I love the WNBA. This is great stuff.
Okay.
I love reacting to things. I love that I have a platform here to react to it.
We're really struggling. At least.
Are we?
I'm fine. John is internally struggling with really the downfall of the Sixers.
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm internally struggling with it.
I think you're subconsciously struggling and not letting yourself admit it.
Probably.
So this is where he's finding real joy right now.
Yeah, right. If I was just a Sixers fan like I was a year ago, Oh my God. And I wasn't watching other basketball.
We would be in depression over here.
Yeah. But now instead I can like let the Sixers tank in the background and let people make fun of Joel Embiid in the background and not have to like white knight defend him. And instead I can just say, congratulations, Diana Taurasi, or wow, why did Chicago make that stupid move? Or wow, Isabel Harrison to New York, nice. I love it.
It's real.
I'm very
growth.
thankful for this league.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for this league, and I'm very thankful for Unrivaled and all that we've gotten out of that.
Yeah, connect with us on Unrivaled, on Bluesky.
On Bluesky. Yep.
That's where we're at.
Send us an email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. Like I said, Bluesky, ATBPod, Instagram, ATBPod. We'll be back eventually with our defunct teams, talking our mini-series. Excited for that. But, Kristen, I'm staring at the baseline. What are we going to do?
Attack it.
Attack the baseline. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with more WNBA goodness. But until then, talk about friends.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.